Yeousch!
The Bowlingotter Show.
You know where he's heading.
Same place we are.
When you hear that a new development studio is going to take over a storied and successful gaming franchise like Halo, your first reaction might be, uh-oh. It's not that you didn't think that 343 Industries can make a good game. It's that Halo is Bungie's brainchild. How could 343 Industries, a brand new development studio, make a game that would really look and feel like Bungie's Halo? I was a skeptic. I greeted Halo 4 showing at E3 with basically, oh look, Halo 4. I can't pretend to care because it's not Bungie. But after putting some solid hours into this game, I can safely say that Halo's franchise is absolutely in the right hands at 343 Industries. And yes, the best could very well be yet to come. But then, when we look at how 343 Industries was formed, it shouldn't come as too much of a shock. This development studio was formed only to oversee the Halo name. It's even named after the franchise character 343 Guilty Spark.
Greetings. I am the monitor of Installation 04. I am 343 Guilty Spark. Someone has released the flood. My function is to prevent it from leaving this installation, but I require your assistance. Come, this way.
And it's not like it's made up of all brand new faces. Some Bungie staff transferred to 343i when it was formed. And let's not forget that when Pandemic Studios closed in 2009, much of that staff went to 343i as well. And those guys were responsible for Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2. So there are capable hands here, and many that have worked on the other Halo games. The result of 343i's effort is a game that legitimately looks and feels like Halo. Everything from the familiar weapons and vehicles, to the landscape battles, the set pieces, the Covenant laser swords, and of course, Master Chief and Cortana.
It's the Forerunner symbol for Reclaimer.
Humanity. That's got to be infinity. Can you get us to those coordinates?
The extensive multiplayer modes, Forge level creation tools, even the theater mode, it's all here. That's not to say that there aren't new things about Halo 4. Most of them have to do with the campaign, which is the first episode of what the developer is calling the Reclaimer trilogy. Finally, we get to continue Master Chief and Cortana's story from the end of Halo 3. Halo 4 starts off 4 years later with Cortana waking Master Chief from cryogenic sleep while their ship appears to be under attack. I'm not going to go into any detail here in order to avoid spoilers, but let's just say that you're going to see some familiar enemies in the Covenant, but also some brand new ones in the Prometheans.
Look out!
Who bring some awesome new weapons with them too. I have to say that the first impression of the action had me concerned. I was opening a door by button mashing early. I really hate that mechanic. And then I was climbing up an elevator shaft in a QuickTime event. Uh-oh. Well, my concerns proved unwarranted, as these were not indicative of the rest of the game. Everything that followed played legitimately like the Halo we know and love. The first impressions of the visuals though? Wow. This game looks much better than anything the Halo franchise has put out before, by a pretty decent margin. The texture detail, the lighting, the sprawling landscapes, this is an impressive feat on a current gen console. You'd expect the frame rate to take a hit as a result, but it wasn't really so. Any slowdowns were rare. And the sound of the guns is also noticeably improved. The Spartan assault rifle has never sounded more powerful. 343i did a fantastic job here. It's Halo, but it's a much better looking and better sounding Halo. The The narrative plays a much bigger role in Halo 4 than it has in previous games in the series, specifically as it pertains to the characters. Master Chief has a lot more dialogue, and the interaction between him and Cortana is much more meaningful. There's a running theme in attempting to find the line between human and machine, and it deepens these characters to a new standard. I've always liked Halo, but before now, Master Chief was just a badass. By the time you're finished Halo 4, you'll also care about him as a character. That's a pretty big deal. The game also introduces a legitimate villain to the franchise in the Didact.
If you haven't mastered even these primitives, then man has not attained the mantle. Your ascendance may yet be prevented.
And it does a pretty good job of giving you that feeling of, how the hell am I ever supposed to have a chance of standing up to this guy? When he's there, he's pretty menacing. I do wish there was more of him though. While a lot of this story develops through dialogue while you play, the pre-rendered cutscenes that periodically come about are well acted and look incredible. Really impressive stuff. The Crisis-esque armor abilities mechanic introduced in Halo Reach returns here with some new tricks, including the Promethean vision, which helps you more effectively detect enemy positions.
This is what they've been using to see through the fog.
And the remote turret, which provides a nice distraction and will probably even take a few enemies out for you. But guess what's no longer an armor ability? Sprint. Now everyone can sprint. Thank God. I know some purists might dislike that, but in a modern FPS, this is a necessary feature. And since all players get it, it's still a level playing field. Here's something that took me by surprise. The campaign feels quite a bit more difficult than in previous Halo titles. I've been accustomed to playing on heroic mode, which has always been the step above normal and a step below legendary. It had the satisfaction of being tough but not impossible while playing by yourself. Well, in Halo 4, heroic feels more like legendary used to. I died repeatedly, just getting through the very first level. So I actually ended up going through most of my single player gaming in normal mode, which felt like it almost got too much easier. But when I had a buddy to join me in some co-op campaigning, we were happy to bring the difficulty back up and take on some tougher mobs. As always, hardcore players are going to want to play through the game on heroic or even legendary all by themselves. And I've always liked this about Halo. Each campaign level can be revisited separately on a one-off basis, and is tracked individually by how you finished it, alone or co-op, or what skill level you played. It's much more reasonable to work through these levels little by little, trying to tackle the higher difficulty levels, or to see how level 6 might feel on Legendary when you have 3 other friends with you, all while still feeling a sense of progression and accomplishment. Halo has always had incredible replay value, so while the campaign will take most players less than 10 hours, depending on what skill level of course, a whole lot of players are also likely to play at least some of it more than once. And of course, beyond the single player, there's still a whole lot to do.
Resupply problem.
The multiplayer portion of the game has been bundled into the Infinity menu. Proceed to War Games and you're diving into the world of competitive Halo gaming. As usual, a myriad of modes are available here. You got your standards like Slayer Deathmatch, Big Team Slayer, commonly with vehicles, and Capture the Flag. You've also got your King of the Hill mode, where 2 teams compete to control a single point of the map that occasionally changes. And Team Slayer Pro, which is basically just Team Slayer with no armor abilities or positional radar. But then you've also got more unconventional modes, like Oddball, where 2 teams compete against each other for points, but only score them by holding the ball, and whoever's holding the ball can't shoot. And Regicide, where the player with the most points is king, and the point bounty for killing him increases while he stays alive and keeps racking up the kills himself. Flood mode is a nice twist, where all but one player begins as humans, and the remaining player as the Flood, who infects any humans he kills so that they return as the Flood themselves. It continues until no humans are left, and is great for a few quick battles when you want to change things up. Dominion mode is where it's at though. This new mode starts with something that feels a lot like the Conquest mode in Battlefield 3, where 2 teams face off to control 3 different nodes on the map, gaining a certain amount of points for each controlled node over time. But there's more to it here. The longer a team controls a point, the more tools that are available to them there, like setting up defensive turrets, earning vehicles, or establishing shield walls to hinder access by the other team. And there's one final twist that's a pretty big change in dynamic. If one team controls all 3 points at any time, this kicks off a sudden death timer. The other team has to regain control of 1 point before this time expires, or the game ends right then and there, regardless of how many points anyone racked up. So no matter how bleak things look, that's a pretty big way that a team can pull off a huge comeback and win a tough match, even if they're way behind in points. With all these competitive modes, there really is something for everyone. But the Dominion mode is certainly the most fleshed out, and one where a team benefits most from quality teamwork and communication. It really is the highlight of the competitive multiplayer. Halo 4 also has a character progression system based on accruing experience points through accomplishing certain feats during your gaming, like finishing with a high rank on the server or completing particular challenges. And using these points you can unlock weapons, abilities, emblems, different kinds of armor for your character. You can customize loadouts ahead of time that you can pick on the fly during matches, a la Call of Duty, to encourage you to try out different combinations. It's good to have a system like this intact here because there's always something about getting just one more level that makes you keep playing. But beyond campaign co-op and competitive multiplayer, there's one more way to play Halo 4 with friends: Spartan Ops. It's an episodic story-based series for 4 players in a co-op mode that runs parallel to the primary campaign storyline. The game was released with 1 episode called Departure that includes a nice pre-rendered scene and 5 playable chapters. Each chapter won't take long to get through, probably 10 or 15 minutes. And while the game gives you objectives, it's really just all about killing all the enemies until there are no more enemies. At the time of this review, this was the only available episode, so it's tough to say how this will shake out. But the gameplay in the 5 included chapters didn't seem very interesting or varied, and didn't introduce any compelling story elements. They were fun, but they were also over pretty quick. If I want more co-op action, I'm more inclined to return to the campaign mode. And there's more than enough reason to go back to the competitive multiplayer. So for now, Spartan Ops takes a backseat. The good news is that the new episodes will be released every week for 10 weeks after launch, and are not going to be at any additional cost. So there could ultimately be a lot of value here. Okay, it's worth mentioning that Microsoft is pushing the day 1 purchase of DLC that actually won't be available until at least December. The War Games map pack is a whopping $25 in addition to the full game price. And if you buy it now, you'll get access to 3 different upcoming map packs which will include 3 maps each. The first pack isn't released until December, and the next 2 in February and April respectively. But word is that they'll be more expensive to buy individually later. This isn't quite as bad as day 1 DLC, but it still kind of feels like it. At my local GameStop, I was duped into thinking that I would immediately get access to additional maps with this purchase, so I ended up plopping down $85 when I bought this game, only to discover that the additional maps would only be available over the next 5 months. That's my fault for not doing my research. If you expect to be playing this a lot, it might be worth it to you, but it's a gamble, as there really is no way to determine the value of this pack yet without knowing anything about the maps. So with all that said, here's the bottom line. I'm giving Halo 4 a 4.5 out of 5. This is an excellent game with tremendous value. Fears of the Halo franchise being improperly driven into the ground by a new developer can be cast aside, as 343i has absolutely pulled this off. The campaign is one of the best of the series. It finally establishes a true villain and pays much more attention to the character development of Master Chief and Cortana than before. And it's fun to return again and again with friends to try to take down the higher difficulty levels. The competitive multiplayer is stacked with modes, with the highlight being the new Dominion mode, and includes an addictive progression system complete with unlocks. The Spartan Ops mode feels light for now, but there's a promise of a whole lot of content in the near future at no additional cost. And with everything already included in the game, here's one of the few titles that can really justify a full $60 price tag. To top it off, the audio was much improved, the orchestral score complements the action perfectly, and it's not only easily the best looking Halo game to date, but one of the best looking games on the Xbox 360, period. There's really not much to complain about here. The difficulty jump in the campaign from normal to heroic feels a little bit too steep, and much more so than in previous Halo games. But that just gives you more reason to bring friends along for some co-op play. I would have liked to have seen more of the Didact villain in the campaign, but as this is the first of a new trilogy, that gives 343i room to save some for later. As it stands, I can't think of another first-person shooter campaign this year that I've enjoyed more. Some purists might not be very keen on the prevalence of armor abilities, or the fact that the sprint ability is now inherent to all players. But these are matters of preference, and and I certainly can't objectively say that they are detrimental in any way. Personally, I think both are improvements that deepen the strategic gameplay. When all is said and done, because of Halo 4, we can all take a sigh of relief. The franchise is in good hands with 343i. This is undoubtedly a must-buy for the Halo faithful, and I certainly can't wait to see what comes next. By now, a lot of you have played Halo 4, so I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on the game. And if you have any thoughts on the review, put them below. And as always, thanks for watching the Bowlingotter Show, and we'll see you next time.
I will not allow you to leave this planet!
We're all what one begin. Fuck hell. That includes a nice pre-rendered scene and fly. How could 343 Industries, a brand new development studio, make a game that would really look and feel like Bungie's Halo? Jesus Christ, Cat. She's scratching. I know. Damn it.